G'day guys, and welcome to this episode of The Process of Success. I'm here with one of my good mates, the Sussex County Cricket Club club captain, Ben Browny. Thanks very much for joining me.
Pleasure, Tom.
For those of you that might not follow county cricket or know Browny's career, he's a very experienced and exceptional all-rounder, being a wicket-keeper batsman. He's played 117 matches. He's almost about to tick over 6,000 first-class runs with 5,981 at an average of a touch under 40. He's got 328 first-class dismissals. He's played 66 List A matches and 74 T20 matches. So, pretty good career, mate.
Good knowledge, mate. Very good.
Thanks, Cricket Bo. Now, to start, I like to take all the guests back to their childhood. What's your earliest memory of playing cricket? How did you get into it? Obviously, your father loves his cricket and you've got one sister. How did it start? Was it playing in the backyard with him?
Actually, our village is centred around cricket in Borkum. So Dad wasn't huge on cricket, but massive on all sports. But it was just a sort of local culture. Everyone went down to the village green and either played cricket, watched cricket, socialised at the cricket club. So in that respect, yeah, I was brought up summer, was down at the cricket club. I think my earliest memory is being told off by the club captain for riding my bike on the square. So I learned pretty early that wasn't acceptable. But yeah, so cricket wasn't probably my first sport. I think football, like most kids in England, would have been my first sport, and then so cricket just took over in the summer.
And how old were you when you started playing competitively then?
I think maybe 8 or 9, so maybe a little bit later than some people would have been playing for longer than that. And then I started to play age group cricket for Sussex when I was 11. I missed the first year, as my best mate Will Beer reminds me, because he was captain the first year. Didn't get in that year, so yeah, he played, and then we played the next year together at 11.
Awesome, and it's amazing that Biro was best man at your wedding. He's still a Sussex player now, and you've had that friendship all the way through. So, at what age did you then did cricket become your main sport, and you start to take it really seriously?
I think maybe 14 or 15. I didn't perhaps excel, especially not at Sussex level, till I was probably 14, 15. So I think there's probably credit to the guys at Sussex for seeing something in me they liked, whether it was general sporting ability or competitiveness perhaps, I'm not sure, but I certainly didn't excel in the age groups. I probably had a higher score of 30 odd by the time I was 14, but I was doing well at club standard and school cricket, so I was going the right way. But then I think it really started to kick on when I got picked on the Sussex Academy. Started to realise that actually there's a future in this, and men's cricket was so exciting. Played a second 11 game when I was 15 and just it blew me away. I think John Crawley played for Hampshire, who at the time was playing Test cricket. I couldn't believe it, and then you start to think, wow, this is actually not as far away as you think it might be.
And so, how often were you training in that period when you were 14, 15 and you started to take it more seriously? You played a second 11 game at that age. How often did you start to train, and was it every day, or was it just every now and again, or how was it looking then?
Yeah, I think looking back, we just played cricket every day we could. I think when the summer came round, I'd be slightly critical perhaps in the modern game. I think sports science has come in a lot, which has helped. But sometimes now the guys aren't playing as much, or we just played every single day we could until we were sort of dragged in, really, either by school or parents, or just they'd had enough. We just played every day, whether it be, I remember sort of being 15 and I'd play a second 11 game here for Sussex, and then I'd play a school game here, and I'd play a representative game for Sussex and a game for Eastbourne at the weekend, or club cricket. So we just played almost every day of the week. I know obviously there's a balance, but I think actually it does you no harm at all. We learnt the game, we learnt how to play when we were tired, and perhaps not as up for it as we always were, and I think that's really stood me in good stead for county cricket, which is an exhausting schedule all summer.
Absolutely, and then you're obviously one of the country's best wicket keepers. Is that something that you did from the very start and it became very natural to you, or were you a fast bowler back in the day?
I wish. No, it's very natural to me. We didn't have a keeper, typical story, but I was also, a scrum half in rugby. I love to be centre midfield in football. I guess I just wanted the ball all the time. I love to be in the thick of it. So keeping felt very natural to me, to be, right in the middle, having the ball all the time. And it's a really natural position for me. And just being under 6 foot as well, that helps.
Just.
Yeah, just.
Now, at what stage did you start to get one-on-one coaching? And did you have mentors from that early age? Like your father obviously had a big impact on your career, but was there anyone else that sort of you went to for advice and maybe you still go to?
I'm really lucky. I'm really close to my parents, and so Dad's sport was football, squash, golf. He plays now, and he played a little bit of cricket as I was growing up. But I think they gave me the grounding and the values that I hold of great importance today. So, the work ethic, the competitiveness, the enjoyment of my sport all comes really initially from my parents, and then those people at Balcombe who I think forever have been very proud of me, and they help to get me going. Always go back to Balcombe, play there, do whatever I can for that club because it's great. But my parents took me into Sussex for individual lessons when I was, I reckon, maybe 10, 11 years old, which I'm grateful for because that's where a couple of people at Sussex saw me and said, I should go to Sussex for a trial, which I didn't think I'd be anywhere near good enough, and luckily I was selected. So I think that sort of period there, I was really lucky to have the support of my parents, and they would pick me up from school, drive me all the way down here, flying around the country, and don't forget I was playing all these other sports as well. So I think that support is what I'll always remember and go back to, and then that probably gave me a foot on the ladder, I guess. I got noticed at Sussex in those individual lessons, and it went from there.
Awesome. And then, so you mentioned you started at Sussex at 11, you played your second team debut at 15. How then did you progress into the academy and into the first team? How did that all come about? Was that just through good club performances as well as some second level performances? How did that look?
Yeah, I think looking back now, I was starting to excel in club cricket and do better in the age groups around 15, 16. But still then I was probably getting a bit better at keeping, probably not scoring huge amount of runs. Certainly in age group cricket there was guys scoring far more runs than me, and I think I always say to young cricketers I meet, I was obviously not very big, which doesn't, at that age can be, the other guys are smacking balls and you're a little bit up behind. But I guess, as I say, I was lucky that Sussex saw something in me that would work long term, and then obviously once you catch up a little bit physically, then I was obviously then start to score lots of runs. But yeah, I guess I started to do a lot better when I got in the academy. We got a lot more help, we took it a lot more seriously, started to get the technical work. I think I always had the competitiveness and the attitude was there, but perhaps the technique wasn't as good then. I hadn't really learned too much about the game, so that when it started kick on and I started to get more consistent and get the bigger scores.
And who were the people you looked to then? Who were your mentors when you first were in that academy system, and who were the sort of coaches you might look back and realise they had quite an impact on your career then?
Yeah, well, Keith Greenfield's director of cricket now at Sussex, and he was my academy director at the time. I think he had a big influence, and I think he probably took a bit of a punt on me, I guess. We always laugh back now. He said, you could see a feisty character in there, something competitive, and he picked more on that than perhaps what the numbers he could see in front of him, because there was certainly lads scoring more runs than me. And then we had Peter Moores was the first team coach at the time. I had limited access to Mooresy, but he was terrifying to me. First team coach, really hard-nosed guy. And I did a session with him maybe once a month, which was, looking back, a real privilege. And he pushed and he pushed and he pushed so hard. I probably still look back and think I don't think any coach has ever driven me as hard and pushed me to a point almost where I felt like I couldn't do something.
Is in getting you out of your comfort zone?
Yeah, 100%. I remember...
in just batting, or is
No, more keeping this was.
Okay.
But I think it was a test of character.
Yeah.
So he used to do this drill where he used to throw the ball onto the bat and skid them off real quick. You're luzzing these balls. And I'll never forget, the balls are just hitting the fence at Hove. Two of us were on the academy at the time, two keepers. The ball was just slamming into the fence, and he kept saying, Matt Pryor, Tim Ambrose, obviously both were having great careers at the time. He said they'd catch 8 out of 10 of these, and you boys are none out of 10. Why do you think you're going to take their contract? Why do you think I want to pick you over them? And emotionally, it's so tough. I remember one just hit me in the side of the head, and it hurt. I look back now and think, perhaps we should have stopped the session, and perhaps that's where the modern games, you don't get that. But he just fired up the next one, and I was thinking, like, my head's throbbing. Yeah, get on with it. I can't remember how the session went. I reckon I grabbed a couple, and I think he said afterwards, apparently he learned a lot about me from that session. He liked what he saw. But I went home in bits thinking, wow, I'm not good enough. But I do remember going back to my coach at the time, who was Nick Wilton, who now actually runs Grey Nichols. So I'm still, still in regular contact with him through Grey Nichols. So I just said to him, look, Nick, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough at this standard. We have to increase the training. On the day-to-day academy level, I've got to do more, because this guy Moores has just shown me that I'm not good enough, really.
Wow.
Yeah, and we had other, Mark Robinson was there as second 11 boss, and he was a hard person, and I guess my character suited that. It wouldn't have suited everyone, and that's where different coaches work for different people. But I certainly at that age started to grow up fast and think, and they reminded me that I was no longer competing with under 15s or under anything. It was, you might have to take someone who's 32 and go, can I be as good as them? And he used people like Chris Nash, Mike Yardy at the time, and said, I'm no longer interested in whether you think you're the best player in the academy. I want you to be better than the professionals who at that time were probably 24, 25. And I think it changed my whole mindset. Suddenly I'm looking much bigger picture, thinking I've got to be, way ahead of where I am now. And I think that increased my standard of training.
Absolutely. It's amazing the difference when you're not competing against 25, 17-year-olds and you're suddenly competing against 80 or hundreds of adults, and that's what you're doing. It's amazing that you just told that story about Peter Moores. I was with Nick Maddison yesterday, and he was telling me about last week he was in Zimbabwe, and Justin Langer put him aside and did something similar where he tested him to see what he's made of. And for our listeners and viewers, that I think elite coaches often try and see what the person's made of, and if you can get through that sort of tough mental and physical challenge, you can sort of prove yourself that you're capable for anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, you do those sessions and you come away and take stock, because emotionally it challenges you emotionally, and then you got to calm down. I think your initial reaction is, it was a rubbish drill, or it's just the coach being the coach. But if you can get over that emotion, get over perhaps even the fact that you've probably failed, because it's hard enough to fail, and then you take away and you say, actually, my day-to-day training, you don't have to always train at that level, but in my day-to-day stuff, I need to be more precise, I need to be better, knowing that when I get that challenge, whenever it is, every month, every few weeks, I'm going to be ready. And I think the best coaches push players that far, and the player can react and get better and better. I think it's really, really important. Awesome.
Now, in that time, when you were 18, 19, coming out of the academy and playing a bit of second team, maybe a bit of first team, and then we'll talk about how it's maybe changed throughout your career, but were you always a keeper first and then the runs second, or was it always, I need to get runs and my keeping will look after itself? How have you managed the fact that you've got to be a good keeper and sort of make sure you take all your opportunities, but also contribute with the bat?
Yeah, it's interesting. I always think I've always been a wicket keeper. Naturally, I love the role, I love the position. It's always been my focus. I think though, as time has gone on, obviously the batting role has changed. Even from when I started at 18 as a pro, you see the levels are going again, especially looking at how good the standards of England wicket keepers, especially in white ball cricket, the standard just keeps getting better and better. So I think you naturally have to adapt. Early on in my career, I focused a lot on my red ball cricket, but the keeping was a huge focus. Now it still has to be a huge focus, but you just have to score the runs. You just have to get runs. So yeah, I think the balance has even shifted. Obviously Gilchrist changed the game for everyone, but then now it's changed again. It keeps going, keeps adapting. So I think now you just have to look at the team and say, I've got to be in the team as a batsman. That's really the priority, to be in the top 5 or 6 as a batter, and then obviously looking after your keeping skills as well. It's not an easy balance to strike.
Yeah, it's something that I suppose, do you devote X number of time each session? You sort of break it into 50-50, or do you just sort of have one specific keeping session throughout sort of leading up to a 4-day game? How do you manage your preparation and your training around both skills?
It's actually really difficult, to be honest with you. The getting the expert help as well is tough. I've been lucky, we've had Michael Bates, who used to play for Hampshire, come in and do some keeping work with me. I had Matt Pryor help me last year, Carl Hopkinson before that, so I'd always had someone who I can just get a selfish hour with. And I think it's so important for wicket keepers to say, you need someone who can facilitate the skill, who is very good at understanding what you need from a drill, and then actually having selfish time to do it. Because mainly coaches are so natural, they'd go, I've got to sidearm the batsman, I'll take a mitt for the bowlers.
Forget about the keepers.
Fielding, and we keepers tend to be a little bit on our own, so you have to dedicate selfish time to do that. I often grab the spinners. It's something I picked up from Jack Russell. I had a chat with Jack Russell, and he was big on keeping to the spinner, just having that relationship, not just drills. So I always grab the spinners who are good here, Briggsy, Biro, they're very, very good. So make sure we keep the shadow batter. But you have to be so deliberate about getting your time organised to do that, otherwise you will miss out.
And is that you saying to Batesy or whoever that was before, saying, I want to do this, I need to do this, or I need to get up to the stumps of this, or are they sort of saying, let's do this, or is it a bit of both?
A bit of both. So I think there's scope to say, I want to get better at X, Y, Z, and then especially if I've got time to train, to be pre-season or a week out from a game, I'm more than happy to say to the coach, you challenge me or you help me however you feel is best. And then perhaps when we get closer to a game, I start to go a bit more routine, rhythm, things that I like to do. And then it's sort of my time, if you like. And then give the coach time perhaps before that to try and challenge and test you and make improvements, and then obviously scale back towards the game.
And not being a keeper, I don't have a Scooby about it, but how much of it is technical and how much during season are you focusing on technique, head position, watching it, etc., or is it a feel thing, or it's something that's completely natural?
I think it's like all the main skills, bowling, batting, keeping. I think that's probably the bit people miss. I don't think it's like fielding. I think it is very much a technical skill.
Yeah.
You've got to be in good positions with your body, with your hands, with your head, with your physique. You've got to be fit enough to do it as well for long periods of time. So I think all those elements are really important. You can't just say, oh no, I'm just going to go out there and react to the ball. It's the same as batting. We hit a lot of balls naturally. We've got to catch a lot as well to make sure we're in the right positions. And I've been caught out even as an experienced player. The minute you get lazy or you get over focused on your batting or obsessed with your batting, you will be caught out, and it'll be that half chance that goes down, and then you'll be kicking yourself thinking, have I done it right over the last week? Or maybe I thought about my batting too much, especially perhaps you're not scoring the runs you want. Suddenly you let slip your keeping, and then the game bites you in the backside. As we all know, it's too difficult a game to miss out in your practice.
Now, you've mentioned Matt Pryor, who had a very successful career with England, and having followed your career quite closely, I know that a lot of the time you were keeping for Sussex, he was off playing for England, and he'd come back and you'd often play in the same team. He wouldn't keep. He'd stand at slip. What are some things you took from him as a young guy, sort of, I suppose, following him into the first team?
Yeah, I think Matt's work rate always stood out. So Matt was good with me when I was probably 18, maybe younger, coming through. I would always tag in with his sessions with someone like Bruce French, and I think, again, a bit like the thing with Morsey, that level of training, and you think, wow, I need to be at that level, and you push and you push and you push, and then you may even come out of the session thinking, oh, I wasn't too good, and then you go back to the game, and actually your game's moved on because of the standard of training. And Matt was a pretty aggressive trainer, I'd say, in the way he was ruthless, and he trained extremely hard.
And is that in that, just sorry to cut you off, is that, I think that when people train that well and they're challenging themselves, they're willing to make a lot of mistakes because they're out of their comfort zone. Is that what?
Definitely. Bruce French is an excellent wicket-keeping coach. He used to play for England, and he talked about, there's a drill we do where you hide the ball in one of the fielding machines, and we have to just set as a keeper in our position, and he won't tell you when it's coming. So you feel stuck, and he says, if you're catching 3 out of 5, you've had a fantastic session. When you do 5 to the right hander, 5 to the left. Now, if you grab 3, you've done brilliantly. So that gives you an idea of the level, the difficulty of the catch.
You're making a mistake 40% of the time.
Exactly, which also tests your emotions, because we don't like to drop balls. We're in tune to not drop balls as keepers. So actually, it's changing your mindset that in training it's okay to drop them because your level of training is right at the top.
And I think that's so important for people that want to get better, is you've got to train out of your comfort zone. And is Matt someone you still maybe talk to about the keeping or the game at all? Is he someone that's still involved at Sussex?
Yeah, he definitely. He's not involved in an official capacity, but yeah, he's definitely someone to catch up with.
Yeah.
I've always there's elements of Matt that I really enjoy, and we've got our keeping is quite similar. The physicality, the way we keep is the same. So yeah, I'll always seek the advice of Matt. You'd be mad not to. The amount of experience he's got, and he also had to teach himself to wicket keep. I always think the best people to speak to about cricket are the guys that have had to work for it.
Yeah.
Especially his keeping, I think he had to work so hard to be actually one of the best keepers in the world, which I think he was for a long period of time. So actually, they've been through the process of actually learning, rather than sometimes the gifted people, the freakish players aren't actually so easy to learn from.
Absolutely. And now, going back to your sort of start of your career when you were 18, 19, you made your debut against Sri Lanka when you were 18. You also played for England under 19s. What do you remember about those times? Was it just full of excitement? Were you scared? Did you think you were one of the best players in the age group at that time? How did you, if you sort of remember back to that, how did that all feel?
I think England 19s is a different experience. I think at the time, it's probably the first time I felt perhaps that I didn't necessarily belong in the team, and it tested me in different ways. I felt some guys have been playing England age group cricket for a long time, and at times it felt quite cliquey in that era. I didn't really enjoy playing for South of England much. When I played that a little bit through in the Bunbury Festival, and a lot of people talked about how special it was and how amazing it was, an opportunity, and I never enjoyed it, which I look back and sometimes I felt guilty at the time because I felt I should be enjoying it. I've got this England shirt, and it actually wasn't an easy experience because a lot of the lads were very cliquey and the system was cliquey, so I felt by the time I came to play for England 19s, I'd been out the loop for a while, and perhaps Sussex was a slightly unfashionable club at the time, if you like, maybe still are. So when I came in, I felt it difficult to get in the group. I felt a little bit on the outside of it, and I know there was a couple of other lads who still catch up in the county circuit who are in the same boat. So that first year of under-19 cricket was really tough. I think I was 17, 18 as well. So there were lads who were 19 at the end of coming to the end of their time who were perhaps not always easy to get along or not always welcoming of the younger end. So really challenging time. Learned loads from it, loads, and who I wanted to be as a person, as a cricketer. Learned a great deal from it. But at the same time, I was playing well for Sussex. I felt confident coming home for Sussex, and I played my first class debut. And I felt, to be honest with you, I felt quite fearless. There didn't seem anything to be worried about because I didn't know what it was like to fail, if you like. I hadn't gone into a first class game and got naught or missed out or been dropped. It was a kind of a shot at nothing at 18, playing in
nothing to lose, really.
Exactly, playing in a tour game. There's a good crowd in. I just remember being really excited to play, and it made it easier. There was a couple of Sec 11 guys playing at the time. Tom Smith, he was a great friend of mine, and we obviously were coming through the system at the same time. He made his debut, and a couple others. So it wasn't. I felt fearless, and I just wanted. At that age, I almost wanted to show off. I just felt like I can do it. Look what I can do, and I was really excited. But it was definitely a different feeling playing for the under-19s. I had to work my way into that, and I did not until probably the back end of my time at under-19s did I really enjoy it.
And that's, I think, fascinating, and I think a lot of young players go into their start of their career with no fear. At what point, has it stayed like that your whole career, or at what point do you think maybe it changed and you started to think, okay, I've got something to lose here, I could get dropped, or I could, and you sort of lose that fearless mentality? Definitely.
I mean, I played that game, so exciting, and then you're sort of back in the second team cricket. And when you finish the under-19s, I think the under-19 system can be so misleading for players at times. And I think they've got Johnny Liu in there now who'd be great for the system. We didn't have that at the time. We had people saying almost, oh, you're in England 19s, or you're one step away from playing a test match, or if you want to get to test match level, you need to do this. If you want to play for England, you need to. And no one said, do you know what? By the way, county cricket is really tough, and just getting in your first team is the main goal. And then you can start to worry about other goals. So I think we were slightly misled in that respect.
Did you think maybe some of you got a bit ahead of yourselves?
Yeah, definitely. The whole system was ahead of themselves. If there's one player to come out and gets a debut at 20, you'd be amazed, wouldn't you? It happens occasionally in some of the greats of the game. They come in and just play. But it was definitely misleading because we almost expected to play. Oh, we should be in the first team. And actually, so I had that debut, it was really exciting. Then finish under-19 cricket, and then you're actually back in second 11 cricket, and you almost feel gutted. Why am I here? I want to play in the first team. I want to do this. I want to do that.
I'm one step away from playing for England.
Yeah. They said I was this, that, and the other, and actually that's not reality. So that was a big come down from that. And then I played a couple of first team games that I wasn't a regular, and rightly so at the time. Hadn't earned that start, and that's when it kicked in for me that I was going to have to work for what I wanted. And I remember going in and saying, why am I not playing? And Andy Hodd was keeping at the time and doing well. And I said, why am I not playing? How am I going to get in the team? The usual story of a young player, frustrated, I just want to play, I should be given opportunity. And Mike Yardy was captain, and Mark Robinson, they both just said, if you score 5 second 1100s, come knocking on the door and you might have an argument. Go away and get 500s. And it was the best goal for me at the time. I remember in a month, we played loads of second team cricket. In 1 month, I'd scored 500s. My form was brilliant. And to be fair, I didn't have to knock on the door. They gave me an opportunity, and I batted number 3 in the first team in 4-day cricket, which was obviously foreign to me, really different role. But Hoddy was keeping and doing well, so quite rightly he was in the team. And there was a spot opened up at 3, and they said, "You've got your 500s, you've learnt your trade, you've done it. Now go and play." And I think that was probably the first time I remember feeling anxious ahead of a game, because I thought, I've now worked for my spot. If I do well, I'm going to stay in for the rest of the season. There was a good chunk of season left. So that's when I started thinking, what if I don't do well? Am I good enough? Number 3, new ball, all this business. and sort of hilariously, I had all these anxieties for the game. I went in at 335 for one. So yeah, it was a record-breaking game. The whole top four, we all got hundreds. Nashy, Chris Nash, Ed Joyce, myself at 3, and Murray Goodwin all got 100, which is I think it was a record or something.
Yeah.
At Horsham, so that was my maiden championship 100, and it was just an amazing moment. It sort of set me off from that season. I played the rest of the season, did pretty well. At number 3, it was obviously not going to be long term. I think I was an unusual 3 for Murray Goodwin, who played in a different era to me. I was going in playing shots, scoring at a runner ball. So yeah, I think he was a bit confused, but no, it was a good time. But it's probably the first time I really learned that actually there's a lot of anxiety around cricket. I mentioned Murray Goodwin. I remember being in the team. I looked at him. I thought I was so jealous of him. I thought it must be so easy for him to turn up. He averages 55 every year. He must be so happy and relaxed for a game. And then I got in the team and saw Muzz was full of anxiety, nerves, pressure. He's training hard. He's worried about the game. He's talking about conditions. How are we going to? And I suddenly realised, I was like, wow, everyone. And everyone in the team was nervous, because you just think, I can't admit I'm nervous. You know, everyone's going to laugh or think, oh, kid's nowhere. The whole team were nervous, and I started to realise that everyone has the same feelings for a game, and it's something that really helped me relax, because I just thought, well, the whole opposition must be feeling the same. And it's often something I talk to young guys coming in now and they're making debuts or early in their career. I said, just remember, whatever stage of the opposition's career they're at, they'll be nervous. They have pressure. You know, there's a senior bowler bowling at a young batter. The young batter can easily feel pressure, but the senior bowler should actually feel, well, I should get him out. I'm the senior guy. So I try to pass that on, because I think it's an important message. You should feel nervous for a game, because if you want it and you want to do well, I think it's a natural feeling.
And that's such a powerful message to young listeners and viewers, I think, is like, as a kid you often see someone on TV or someone you idolise and you think that they're not human. But then as we've both grown up and we've got to know and played with a lot of the world's best players and stuff, it's you realise they're just human. But what they do is they find a way to deal with it. They find a way to deal with the nerves. They find a way to deal with the negative voice or the self-doubt or whatever it is, and then still succeed. And it's not that they're not human, it's that they've just found a way. And it's great to hear that story and reinforce that message. Now, you came over, you and I became good friends during 2 seasons you had at Melville in Perth. What did you learn from that experience? Not only about your cricket, but about yourself, living away from home and sort of having to be an overseas pro, I suppose, as well. How did you find that experience?
Yeah, brilliant. You know, I obviously had a brilliant time. I was so lucky when you come to Melbourne. We had such a great side off the field, didn't we, in terms of the togetherness, the social element. Sussex at the time, we perhaps weren't in the space we wanted to be as a team. And I came to grade cricket and looked at Melville and thought, they're doing a lot of things better than we are as a club, in terms of what we did off the field, you know, even the little milestones we used to mark, the way we used to get around our teammates. Everything we did as a club taught me a lot, reinforced what I was as a cricketer. I suppose that's a bit of luck, you know, you go to a club, you don't quite know how it's going to be. And I remember going home thinking, I want to take home this message, because we've lost our way a little bit. And we've always, as Sussex were together, we had everything that Melville were as a grade side. And we'd actually drifted away, and actually playing grade cricket made me realise so much what we were lacking. So that was the first thing it taught me. But then secondly, you're away from home, you're managing your own cricket, you're going out there, you make your own decisions. There's no one to tell you off if you miss your running session. There's no one telling you, oh, you've missed your weight session, or you haven't done your tough session, you haven't had your net, you haven't practiced your short ball. So there's no one there to tell you off. It's actually all about you as a cricketer wanting to come home as a better player. And as I say, you can't prove yourself with training in front of coaches or look what I did. It's all about how you come home. And I loved that. I loved that responsibility. Not that it doesn't work for everyone, but I loved it. I love to think it's about me improving. I want desperate to go home and show where I am and what I've improved on. And the cricket's hard, especially as an overseas player. You're earmarked straight away. The opposition, you know, what come for you, don't they? Verbally, you know, everything about their effort goes up. There's pressure on you to perform. And, you know, also grade cricket, it isn't easy to get into clubs sometimes, you know, especially, you know, the lads are brilliant with me, but especially the higher up the club, you know, it's difficult at first, you know, sort of almost will go and prove yourself. You know, I played a decent amount of first class cricket, but it was all about starting again. You leave your ego at the door and go, well, actually, I've got to prove myself for Melville Cricket Club. It doesn't really matter what I've done, because it doesn't help the club if I don't come and perform, behave properly, be a good overseas player. And I absolutely loved it. I threw myself into it 100%. And yeah, those 2 seasons, as good a cricket memories I've got. We won trophies, built friendships, and cemented exactly who I wanted to be as a person and cricketer, I think.
Awesome. It took maybe a 90 or 40 balls or something in your first game of second grade to get you into the first team, and
then I had to earn it.
And a 90 odd in a WACA final, so you certainly pulled your weight for the Melville boys. Now, a few summers after that, I think you went out to Sydney and you did some work with Trent Woodhill. He's a world-renowned batting coach and someone who's very good, and we've spoken in the past about it. But what were some of those things? What were some of his fundamentals, and what were some of the things that I know has really helped take your game to the next level since then?
Yeah, I think he's the most typically un-English coach, if you like, from what we know as English players. We've been brought up quite safe, everyone has the same technique, top hand, this, that and the other. We play late, we do everything. We do the basics of the game pretty well, I'd say. But someone like Trent, I've always been relatively unorthodox, but I've often been coached in an orthodox sense. And I was starting to work it out myself a little bit. We had a few tricky pitches at Hove, actually. And I started to think, well, if I play conventionally, I'm just going to get out. So I started to work out I wanted to play differently anyway. I'm a back foot player, I'm a bottom hand player, but I'd always felt that I'd been coached to play off the front foot with my top hand.
Yeah.
I went and saw Trent, and it almost confused him so much that I would even bother to get on the front foot or play with my top hand. He couldn't get his head around it. So what essentially he did was he talked about my strengths and said we're going to hammer the strengths. We look for the pull shot, we look for cuts, we look for bottom hand drives. We don't worry about the weakness.
Hitting down the ground.
Yeah, we play so aggressively in our strengths that the weaknesses won't even matter. And I think there was a real shift in mindset. I love talking to him about the game because he just sees it so differently, and he kind of married up my own views and was starting to go that way, that I was starting to think, well, sod it, like I've done all right so far, why do I have to conform to what everyone wants me to do? And he really helped give me the belief and confidence to actually just go and do it. And in red ball cricket as well. I mean, he was extreme. He wanted me hitting balls over the top, scoring at strike rate of 100. And we tried it, we tried it with the red ball. And I said, I can't do that with the red ball. And he said, well, let's get a red ball and swing a bit, whatever. And actually I could do things I didn't think perhaps were capable of, because... But
also maybe things that you thought other people wouldn't accept. If you're trying to go at 100 in a 4-day game, maybe someone would say, what are you doing, mate? But if that's what was going to make you play the best... Absolutely,
and I think it's given me an ability to change games. You can't do it every time, but I think if I had any reputation in the red ball team, I'd love to think that I've been able to rescue some difficult situations for us in the middle order. And it goes down badly with the opposition because suddenly their noses are out of joint, they're expected to come in and play a certain way. I think someone said the other day from the opposition, that's a bloody good example to set, isn't it, Skip? Like trying to... And actually it was, because that's how I want to play, and I want everyone to play their way.
Yeah.
But you will come under pressure from not just opposition, but your own coaches. If they don't understand exactly why you're playing, they can confuse them as well. So you've got to be strong enough. If you're going to play slightly differently, then you have to be strong enough to absorb the days I get it wrong. I've been very frustrated in the past where I'll get out playing my pull shot, which is my best shot, and coaches come and say, it's a poor shot, weak dismissal, soft shot. Whereas if you have a little drive down the ground and nick it to the keeper, no one bats an eyelid, which actually for me, perhaps in a 4-day game, is not a very good option because it's not where I'm strong.
And so is that, like, you obviously did the work with Trent, you come back to Sussex, is it then a matter of communicating to your coaches, like, this is what I worked out, this is how I'm going to play, I'm not going to try and drive down the ground, I don't want to get on the bowling machine and hit hundreds of half volleys down the ground, I'm going to hit through cover point and off the back foot, and then when you do get out, you say, well, hang on, this is how I play. Is it a matter of then communicating to your coaches?
Yeah, Trent gave me advice with that. He said, actually, keep a few things to yourself. Don't share everything. But I've got a great relationship with Mike Yardy, who's batting coach and sort of second team coach now at Sussex. And he's a great friend of mine and was my captain early part of my career. And he loved all that. He's unorthodox. He loved the idea of it. So we kind of made sure we talked about it a lot, because Trent made the point, if you have 30 innings next year, you're going to get out probably 28 times. So 28 times in the season the coach might be irritated or thinking that was a bad shot. But he just said, as long as most of those 28 dismissals you get out your way, every now and again someone will blow you away, whatever. But if you're going to get out pulling or cutting, you're going to be happy with yourself than being whatever it is. So yeah, I got that relationship with Yards who helped me make sense of my dismissals. So we could be honest and say, actually, that's a poor one, my fault. Actually, that's not. I've just got my pull shot wrong. I did it against Durham the other day. I pulled back a length, went straight up in the air for 50 odd, and I walked off thinking, oh, you know, she's got to go on, blah blah blah. And I thought, hang on a minute, I got probably 35 of the runs
doing the same thing.
Yeah. So you take the roughless move, and if you can, with experience, you can perhaps be more resilient mentally and say, do you know what, it's my shot. I'll keep playing it. It'll get me more runs than I'll get out.
I think that's such a big lesson for young players who don't know their game as well or whatever, and they try and bat one way and then the coach says don't do that. But the quicker you can try and learn what your strengths are and stick to it and not try and change it when you make a mistake. I think too many players at a young age might cover drive well and then they nick a cover drive and they'll stop cover driving.
Yeah,
or like you say, you pull well, you get out pulling, you try and stop pulling, and rather than saying, okay, that's just a poor execution. Shot was on, but I didn't quite execute it. But I'm going to continue backing myself to do it.
I think you'll always chase your tail in that sense. I've been there. First innings, I'll go defensive and be like, I'm going to dig in and dig in. I'll try really hard. 5 off 25 balls nick off, and then the second innings you come in, right, I'm going to be really, really positive. Right, they're a poor shot out. You're always chasing. If you stick to your strengths every game, then
you're going to be more consistent.
You have to be.
Awesome. Now, middle of last year, I think, last season, you took over the club captaincy, and then early this year, before this season, you were announced officially as the club captain. How have you found that role? Have you enjoyed it? And what are some of your sort of key things you try and bring as a leader to Sussex?
Yeah, I've loved it. I think it's been a really challenging time for the club. The coach has changed over in that period of time, so I was sort of captain for. It felt like an interim period, to be honest with you, and I felt I was probably inheriting a few problems that I didn't like because they weren't necessarily true to me. But I tried to do the best job I could. But what probably meant the most is when Jason Gillespie came in. He then elected me as captain from a pool of choice. It was his choice. I think that probably meant the most to me. Right, I'm now officially club captain. I've been selected by the coach. We can build a relationship and really start to get things in place. And I think that was quite a special moment. Then sort of name on the honours board at Sussex, and being a Sussex lad, that meant the world to me.
Someone who's been a 20-year Sussex person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and going all the way through the age groups, it does inevitably mean a huge amount to me, and my family, great supporters. They come and watch all the time. So I think it's a big moment. But I think in respect to the captaincy, there is a lot of challenges, and it is exhausting at times. Keeping, batting, captaining, it's exhausting. And I'm learning as I go, really. This season particularly, doing the whole season as club captain is different from being an interim. It's a different pressure because you feel the weight of the club. I want every element of the club to improve. So, and Jason Gillespie is very much the same. He wants all the elements to be fixed. So when we sat down and chatted about the club, it was music to my ears that some of the things I've been so frustrated about that I felt we needed to change. He was on board straight away, and we had very similar values as people. So that made me very relaxed and felt we're going to make progress here. Awesome.
And you've just mentioned Gillespie. What are some of the things that he's brought? Obviously, he's played a lot of Test cricket. He's got a reputation for being an excellent coach. What are some of his fundamentals or beliefs or philosophies that you've learnt from?
The best thing I can say about Dizzy, he's an excellent human being. First, forget cricket, he's an excellent human being. I think he's got a great understanding of cricketers and people's emotions, and I'd say he's a very emotionally intelligent person. So his man management skills obviously are superb because of that, and I think that's been the main element he's brought. And then he's sort of been able to tie in the whole club because he's a very much a people's person. He's out there playing for our staff Sharks 11, which is guys around the club have formed a cricket team that work in the office and stuff, and Dizzy's happy to go and play. You can imagine they're loving it. He's connecting with everybody. He's connected the club again, and we've been desperate to try and get the club glued together and all elements of the club going in the right direction. That has always been our strength. So when I sat down and chatted to him about that, he was absolutely said that's what I try and do everywhere I go. So he's done that in the media. Everything coming out of Sussex cricket is now positive. He brings a self-belief. It goes into the players. It's pretty straightforward stuff, but it's actually, from what I can see, very difficult to do. for other people, and he comes in with this huge belief. He's relaxed, he's calm, he's got an aura about him of authority, and people ultimately want to impress him, play for him, not because he'll whip you if you get it wrong, but because you want to do well for him.
And I imagine that he's quite level, whether you have an amazing day or a terrible day. I'm sure, from what it sounds like, emotionally intelligent. He doesn't get too up or too down. He's just quite calm and relaxed.
100%. And one thing he said to me early on, he said, if we're having a batting collapse or we're getting smacked around the park, you'll probably see me reading the paper on the balcony and having a laugh and a joke with Swifty, the assistant coach, because he ultimately needs to portray an image that, chill boys, like, it's okay, I'm backing you. In the past I've seen coaches trying to get involved,
agitated,
messages, kicking lumps out the ground, which is so unhealthy for the team, because then the tension rises and
everyone panics.
Yeah, and cricket is such a game of emotions and confidence, and it's hard enough anyway. And if your coach is piling on pressure, it can be impossible. So his emotions are so calm, so level, 100, 0. He's the same guy to you, which is great.
And has that rubbed off in how you captain a bit as well? Like, obviously you mentioned you're competitive. You like, having played with you, you love the contest. Have you had to try and be a little bit more calm and maybe not so fired up at times, given now you're the captain?
Yeah, I think control of emotions is important, but he's taught me a lot in that respect, and I always think of him in moments where I'm frustrated with my team, because I know I can easily give off a bad body language, or it's always something people have said about me, and I've played with and against and different captains, and I've learnt a lot from that. I didn't want to be a captain that everyone goes, oh god, he's kicking off because of misfit, whatever. As long as the team is buying into what we're trying to do, I've tried to be noticeably as relaxed as possible, and that has been a change for me. And even last year, when things were not where I wanted them, I found that frustrating, and I could be more emotional. Whereas now, with Dizzy up there, I know he wants me calm because he wants a team calm, and that's been a great challenge for me. But also to help me hugely with my emotions, and also it's too tiring to be angry at every misfield, at every drop catch, everything that goes on. That you don't. It's annoying, every poor shot. You can't be up there kicking off because your emotions will be too high all the time. So I'm trying to, with Dizzy, create an environment where players feel comfortable to be at their best every day, and then very occasionally if we have to just give a nudge to the guys at training and say we need to work harder. But I've found so far this year I haven't even had to do that, which is brilliant for me because everyone is buying in. So actually I can relax on the field knowing everyone's giving their best shot, and then try and control my emotions.
Awesome. So it's obviously the culture that's allowing you to do that, and it's just, I think the emotional control, and especially as a wicket keeper, where you need to be focused every ball, it must be such a hard thing to sort of get frustrated and then focus again and get frustrated. To be able to just stay calm must make the world of difference. Now, into your own mindset and your own emotions, which we've touched on there, have you done any form of mental conditioning in the past? Any form of meditation or visualization or anything like that? Have you had through the club psychologist or the ECB? Have you ever done anything like that, or is understanding your mindset and being able to focus just come naturally to you, I suppose?
I certainly think processes have helped me in the past. I worked with a sports psychologist on a little bit of getting a process together to help concentration and nerves and stuff, but I've not been a massive one for. I think perhaps my mindset has been a strength of mine in the past, and understanding myself as a person I think is the most important thing. I guess I've done it without knowing it, even trips away, living away, just actually working out who and what I want to be as a cricketer has helped me with my mind. I understand quite clearly now what frustrates me in a teammate or myself, and what I'm looking for to actually help me relax. And if I know my values, I know what's important to me, I know what's important to this cricket club. So once people go away from that, I'm very much back to my values and think, well, why am I upset with that? Actually, that's fair enough because I want the club to go in a certain direction. So working on your mindset, I think it's a daily thing, every single day. In leadership as well, I think one thing everyone's taught me always from a young age said, you're a leader, you're a natural leader. And for quite a long time I just rejected that. I was like, whatever, and they said, if you're in a bad mood, the team's in a bad mood. I used to say when I was immature, I used to say, well, it's not my fault, I don't care, well, that's not my fault. But over the years I started to learn that actually that is just something, for some reason I have that quality in a good way, or it can be bad. And I think now as a leader, every day your mind, the way you behave, the mindset you turn up the ground in is massive, because ultimately, especially now in an obvious leadership role, people are going to follow my mood. So it's not okay for me to turn up and moan about the coach or moan about the nets or just be moany because I want to be moany. I think I've got to push my standards every day and make sure that my mind's right when I turn up, because people will follow.
And something you taught me once, which has stayed with me forever, and I teach my athletes now, is, and I think it was a Peter Moore's thing maybe, is you're either an energy giver or an energy taker.
Yeah.
And you don't want to turn up and sap people's energy by complaining and moaning. You want to turn up and you want to try and give energy to people, don't you?
100%. That's such a great point. I loved that from Morsey, and he said there were sort of neutrals, and sometimes he said they're neutrals even worse, you know, someone who doesn't give. So I'm massive on it. What are you bringing to the team? And now looking at signing players, be it an overseas player or a player from somewhere else, or promoting an academy player, I really look for I look for the package. I'm saying, okay, what is he going to bring to the staff? Like, what's he going to bring as a person? Is he going to be up and about in the field? Is he going to give me huge energy? We got a young cricketer, Phil Salt, who we didn't have an opening batsman in an obvious opener at the start of the season. So he just put his hand up and said, I'll do it for you. To be honest with you, if there was any candidate not to do it, you know, he is a natural ball striker. He's playing 2020 now. And I thought, blimey, okay, fair enough. And I thought, you know what? His attitude will get him some results. Yeah, he has some bad days, but his attitude will get him results. And he's flown around in the field for us, taking unbelievable catches. He's the first one up to the bowler. He's grabbing caps. He's doing everything. He's geeing up the boys every day, 100% energy, up and about, 0 or 100. And I can't tell you how to have a young player in the team doing that, how it's lifted the whole group. You can't underestimate how that lifts the group, as opposed to perhaps a slightly more experienced player on paper who averages 5 more with the bat, that won't actually give you that energy or drag people in. I don't hear any moaning from a guy like Salty. I don't hear any complaining. He plays a bad shot, 10 minutes later he's like, right, put it to bed. He's up and about, he's on the balcony clapping. If I can get as many people in my team as that, I think the results will add up to more than the sum of our parts. Yeah. Rather than where Sussex has slipped, I believe, is on paper we put out a team and I think, cool, we're a good team today, and we lose. A couple of times this season I put out a team and I think, oh, are we a bit light in batting, or we haven't got the balance right, or we're maybe one bowler short, and we win, or we put in a great performance. Because I think if the character in the team is right, we can win. Absolutely. And I know from when I was a teenager and going through and having been captain of Melville, as a captain, you just love those guys that give energy and bring that sort of positiveness to the group. And like you say, often they might get picked ahead of someone who's got better numbers because they bring more to the whole group. Absolutely. So, I spoke to Eddie Jones, the England rugby coach, because Rob Andrew, our chief exec, managed to get him in. And he just spoke to a few of us, and he put it in cricket terms. He said in a rugby team, he would say, I'd have one guy who, let's say, is a guy that averages 55 with the bat, and he's a rock star of a player, and maybe he carries on a bit and maybe doesn't buy into the team, but he's a bit of a hero, you know, a bit of a superstar. He said I'd have one of those players in the team if I was a cricket team, no more than that. And then he said the most important people, the guys that average 40, good players and strong players, they have to be on board, they have to be your leaders, they have to be doing everything right. But he said the guys that average 25, 30, they've got to be the best blokes in your team. 100% best blokes in your team. They've got to be giving the energy, doing extra, being the best fielders, and that's how he thinks about putting a rugby team together. He says, okay, if you're a good player, you've got to be leading, because otherwise people will follow you. They go, actually, he's a good player, and he says the nets aren't good enough, that's why we're not winning, or whatever. So the guys that average well, they have to be good blokes, they have to lead. The guys that don't average well, they still got their part to play, but they have to be the best blokes in the team. And you can maybe afford 1 or 2 people who is that sort of rock star mentality, a little bit selfish, but maybe 1 or 2, no more. If you start to have 3 or 4 on a team, you'll never win, which I thought was really interesting. Absolutely, and I think attitude and effort is something that can be controlled. Yeah. You can't control the pitch, you can't control often your dismissal or anything, but attitude and effort is something that can be controlled. 100%. Now, before we look to wrap up, just want to know a little bit more about your mindset and probably being a keeper and a batter. Do you have a pre-ball routine? And if so, what is it? What do you think to yourself? What do you do physically? Yeah, I developed this, I worked hard on it with Matt Pryor the year before. I wasn't actually captain at the time, on a bit of a process. And one of the things I've actually just started to do as captain, I sort of lift up my cap and in my head and put it back on, and in my head I say keeping now. Because with the greatest will in the world, first slip, second slip, gully, whoever, they say, oh Browny, have you thought about moving him round, or what about the next spell? And suddenly your mind starts to tick the wrong thing as a keeper. So I've really worked hard on that, having that selfish moment when I put my cap back on.
You're back to being a keeper.
Yeah,
not
I'm
a
just
captain.
a wicket keeper. Doesn't matter about captaincy. There's nothing more I can do.
We've got a nightclub going on outside by the sounds of it. Oh well, someone's having a good time.
Yeah, no, so I have that selfish time where I just go, right, it's about me now. This is my cricket. And something, when it comes to batting, the minute I come off the field, in my opinion, like the captaincy's done. All I can be is the best person I can be. I can't go and captain the batting. So to give them a time off, relax, recharge. I bat in the middle order, so calm down.
And what about your batting routine? Do you have anything for that? When the bowler's running in, do you sort of say anything, or is it just like, does anything go on, or it's just all clear and natural? Pretty clear.
No, I don't. I think form comes and goes, doesn't it? I think once you're struggling a bit, I tend to go a little bit more attacking mindset in terms of competitive with the bowler. So if I feel vulnerable, I'll be very overly competitive with the bowler. I may even verbally say something, my body language would be aggressive to try and get myself into a contest. And look, you can end up looking silly and the bowler gets you out and gives you a send-off, but to me, I'm not fussed. When I'm out, it ruins my day. I don't care if I'm sent off. So I tend to be, the more I'm backed into a corner, I try to come out fighting. And when I feel in form and in rhythm, I back my game, I back my own bubble, get very calm and just play. And that's often when I'm playing my best, is when that. But if I'm not feeling that, or the loads in the pitch, or the bowler's all over me, my game isn't where I want it to, I tend to go into, I'll try to pick a little bit of a fight. Even if I don't do it over, I'll try and pick a fight with the bowler and try and get in that competitiveness and take myself away from technique, because technique doesn't work for me, especially not in the contest. I can't think about where my hands and my head are. So I try to get into that contest as early as I can. I even did it like one pre-season game. I looked pretty stupid because I just felt awful. Pre-season, I was searching for form, trying too hard, so I just chirped the bowler. It was stupid. A pre-season game, it shocked him. He starts, a bit of a fight in pre-season. Great. I got 65, I think, in the game, but it kind of
got you going.
Yeah, it reminded me that I don't care about. It was a pre-season game. I was too worried about all this. Get into the fight. So I think if I'm ever feeling vulnerable, I just try and get into a fight and a competitive element to the game.
I remember when we were living together 5 or 6 years ago now, and I was lacking runs and a bit out of form, and you said to me, you look like you're out of form just the way you're carrying yourself. You said go out there tomorrow, I think it was a Friday night, you said go out there tomorrow, walk out there as quickly as you can, stick your chest out and really make them feel like you're in form.
Yeah.
Be busy, pat the pitch, speak loudly and show them you're in form. And I thought, that's a really good idea. So I went out there and whether it was that or what it was, I got 100 that day and I got 100 the next day in the final at the WAC, and it was such a shift in the way I was thinking. I went from being really internal to try and be external, and it made such a difference, that little bit of advice, and it sounds like that's something you continue.
It's easier said than done, don't get me wrong. I mean, this is obviously comes with some experience, and also you get to a point where you think, well, who cares, if I go and get in a contest for the bowler, give him eye contact, get stuck in and I lose the battle, who cares? You're going to move on the next week and have another battle. I always would rather go that way than sort of be timid and be, I didn't really get into the game. So I need it. I need to play that way. And I think if I wish I'd known that earlier in my career, I would have been more consistent early. So yeah, it's definitely something I've learned.
Now, as a pro, you've got to manage white ball and red ball cricket. And speaking of your good mate Bureau earlier, Sussex are playing the 2020 tonight, and then there's 2 4-dayers starting next week, and then back into a 2020, and you have to be able to manage those different formats of the game. How do you go about sort of your game from red ball to white ball cricket?
Well, I go back, we spoke earlier about Trent Woodhill. He really helped me that. I for a period of time, struggled with it. Some of the schedule was ridiculous. We played a 4-day game, and then we'd play a 2020 the next night, and then have a day off, and then play a 50 or something like that. That was really tough. And Trent said that he thought the best players in the world have one technique pretty much for all formats. And he said what I was doing was going to work in all formats and actually just trust it. So actually your basics then can maybe transfer a little bit easier. Obviously your tempo is going to go up in 2020 and down a bit in 4-day and all that, but at least if you're roughly in the same position, you can maybe manage those formats the same. So that really helped me actually, because it's been it's a challenge for all county cricketers, I think. We don't have a lot of time, and we've actually got 3 different coloured balls coming our way. We've got 2020, we've got a 4-day game, and then we've got a day-night 4-day game with the pink ball. So I think you need to have roughly the same game for all formats, because otherwise the games come too thick and fast, and you won't have time to adapt.
Yeah, and it must be so hard to try and be one way one day and completely opposite the next.
Stressful.
Now, you've played with and against some of the best players in the world. You've got Rashid Khan here playing for Sussex at the moment. What is it that you've noticed about the world's best players? What are the things they do? What's the common traits across the world's best players that you've seen?
Well, one thing I think we spoke about earlier, they're human, so they all have their insecurities, all have their things they worry about. But I think the best players, I haven't seen anyone get to the top of cricket without working hard. I mean, Rashid Khan, I think I saw him in telly and I thought, this kid is a freak. He bowls almost 65 mile an hour, spins it both ways. He's a great fielder. He's just so lucky. He's turned up. He's in the gym. He's doing deadlifts. He's smashing out gym sessions. He's bowling for hours. Us keepers want to help us. He bowls some more. Hits loads of balls at training. It's pretty obvious that I don't think anyone can conquer this game. Well, full stop. But I don't think anyone can master this game without the work that goes into it. And I haven't seen anyone turn up and be able to cheat the game without doing the work. I really haven't. So until I see that, I think work rate is a common denominator of all top players. And I think it's so easy to think on TV, oh wow, this guy is a freak, I wish I was that talented. And yeah, look, talent is there clearly, and their ceilings might be higher than a lot of us, but ultimately the work to get there is almost all of them have got the same work rate and the same desire. And as I say, Rash being in the gym, we had Ishant Sharma turn up. He again was probably one of the better pros I've seen, doing his gym work, doing his rehab, making sure he was absolutely ready. He got off the plane and bowled for an hour and a half because his body's so well conditioned. He can do that. His work rate was really, really high. And all the things I hear about players around the world. He spoke about Kohli. He spoke about he likes to hit balls. One thing he said about Kohli was he thinks he talks to everyone in the team. He tells them he is going to go and smash all the bowlers. That's one thing I think probably a mindset like we talked about earlier. That is an extreme. So I asked him about he's going to face Jimmy Anderson, who obviously got him out in the Test series in England, and he had a lot of problems with that. And I said, has he shown any sign that he's feeling vulnerable about the series coming up, or he's got a point to prove? And Ishant said, no way. All he does is say, I'm going to smash him everywhere. I'm going to smash him everywhere.
Unbelievable belief in himself.
Yeah.
Some people would call it arrogance.
But who knows if he actually thinks that, or who knows if he thinks, I am actually really worried about Jimmy Anderson swinging it round corners in England. But he's saying to everyone else in his own team as well, I'm going to smash the bowlers everywhere. And I imagine if your teammate was saying that to you, I think everyone would think, yeah, I can do that. And that's probably why he's a great leader for India, because he gives off that air of belief. And I hear KP was the same. We had the problem with the left-arm spinners. He apparently was going around the dressing room going, I am the best player left-arm spin in the world. And it was almost comical.
Yeah.
But in his mind...
They're trying to convince himself almost as well.
Exactly. And I guess maybe the best players in the world think differently to us, and they think about it differently, and KP's convincing himself he's the best player left-arm spin in the world. Eventually he probably will be.
Absolutely. Now, how do you switch off from cricket? That's something I think young players struggle with. What do you do to switch off? You've got your cat you spend a bit of time with now.
Yeah, dog on the way, I think. I think it's with great difficulty, actually. I think most people struggle with it. We play a lot. I think in 4-day games I've been better. I love to socialise. I think you've got to go out for dinner in the evening with teammates. I love it. I think it's the great privilege of playing a 4-day game, especially if you're playing away from home. Go out for dinner, talk the game, have fun. If you've had a bad day, go out, have fun, and get around someone that's had a good day. And equally, if you're the guy that's had a good day, just go out and give you positive energy and have a nice evening. Doesn't work for everyone. Some people like to go to the room, just chill out. For me, I'm an extroverted person. I've got to be around people. It's helped me switch off. But I do think it's a challenge almost every day, and I found it's almost come back around with captaincy. So I got a lot better of it, and my wife was grateful. I got a bit better. I come home, I was much able to drop the cricket quicker. Now with captaincy, it's another challenge again, because every day almost, like, if the team doesn't do well, I've had some days where I've done well and the team's done badly and I feel empty. In other days, one thing with captaincy, you can have a bad day as an individual, you nick off for naught, but one of the young kids has gone and got 100, or the team's done well, and you're so up and about, because that's really, your focus becomes that. But again, the captaincy has now challenged me again of how I'm going to switch off, and there are different things you can do, but I do believe in fun. I think Dizzy's brought that element. You can have some fun as a cricketer without overdoing it. You've got to be professional, yes. You can have a beer. We're not rowers. We're not. There is an element to say you can enjoy your cricket. You can go out for a nice feed every now and again. You can have a beer at the right time. Try to relax that way. But I just think it's not an easy challenge for cricketers. It's such an emotional game. We all know how hard it is when you get naught, you get 100, whatever. But I guess you got to find things along the way that you can make peace with your dismissal. That's the key, because then you can switch off easier when you've made peace with it. You say, do you know what? I played the best I could play today, or I played my way, I played my shots and got out. Make peace with it and go home and have some fun.
Very, very good point. Make peace with your dismissal. Now, last 3 quick questions. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice? I think probably to do it my way. I think is the best advice I could give, or I wish I'd known earlier. I think probably is doing it exactly how I want to do it. And then if you fail, you've done it your way. I think is the best.
Awesome. What's your definition of success?
It's tough. Right now, I'd say my feel of success now in my career is probably the direction of the club. I think it's changed. My own personal goals, I want to play for England. I want to play Test match. I guess I'm pretty old-fashioned now saying that. I just want to play Test cricket for England. That's what I want to do. That's my goal. But I've learned that I can't see that as the end goal, the end success, because there are other factors that I can't control. So, but right now, I'd say if I finish as captain with the club in a better place than when I took it over, I'll see probably my career as a success, and I'll be delighted if I can leave the club in a much better state than I found it.
Awesome, and I'm sure you will. It's already on the way up now. Finally, why do you play cricket?
I love it. I love it. I love sport. I love all sports. I love cricket. I remember I was always laughing the other day when it was raining a few weeks ago now, and the boys are always going to get a bit giddy. It's like any job. If you get a day off because it rains, you're going to be happy. And then I remember, look back, I was 8 years old and I got a chance to play for Balcombe under 9s, and I was going to be the wicket-keeper because the guy was away or something. So excited, rain, cried my eyes out. I always think back to that, and I think that's probably why you play cricket. If you can hang on to that as long as you can, with all of the different pressures you play with. Now we celebrate it rains, which is obviously but no, in all seriousness, if you can hang on to that kind of childlike enthusiasm. We've got Jofra Archer, who's sort of fast becoming one of the best cricketers in the world. He has a childlike enthusiasm to play cricket. He wants to show off, he wants to play cricket. Look how fast I can bowl, look how far I can hit the ball, and he'd be amazed how far it can take you. Obviously he's got worlds of talent to back it up, but his attitude, he doesn't fear the game because he's so excited to show off, and I think that's pretty good mindset to have. Absolutely.
Now, Browny, where can our viewers follow you? What's the best place? Channels, Twitter, Instagram?
I've been bore them on Instagram, Twitter.
Instagram at BenBrown26.
That's right, yeah. Right, get around me. Let's get my following up, so get around me.
Legend. Thanks so much for that. I'm sure our viewers have got a huge amount of insight from a very elite cricketer and also leader. So thanks, Browny.
No worries.